Buenos dias, good morning. I promise you I'm looking at the road, I'm not looking at you. So, things that have happened in the past 24 hours. The United Nations, that organization that can't do shit apparently, finally found the spine regarding its superpower, the United States, and the puppeteer that controls it, Israel. And they said that the Epstein files are crimes to humanity. Why is this important? Well, you've got China, who's another superpower, and Russia, who's another superpower, fully against what's happening. And now you have France and Great Britain, the other two superpowers, literally launching investigations into this. So, if the USA vetoes anything, those four superpowers could potentially override that veto. They can veto that veto. And that's checkmate. Because now the ICC can come into play. Because they said that they're crimes against humanity nationally in the United States and internationally. So that would only mean that non-ICC countries could potentially try to harbor these criminals, but that might be only parts of the Middle East. So expect all these people to go there. How do you know? History. Knowing how the United Nations works. Griselda, how do you know how the United Nations works? For those of you that are new, in 1995, the LAUSD and a lot of school districts across the country have something called the Academic Decathlon. Academic Decathlon, you have 10 subjects, speech, music, art, English, math, science, blah, 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 right? There's 9 subjects, and then one is the super quiz. The super quiz will pick a certain specific event or subject, and all the questions, which are 15 questions that you have to answer publicly in an auditorium, surrounded by people, you have to answer them. So, and we don't find out who wins till we have a banquet later. But you're sitting in front of a judge on a table, and it's done that way. And the thing about it is, each individual subject is graded separately, and then you have the all-around best score from every subject. Okay, so. And then you have 3 tiers, meaning you have the first tier, which is the C-level answers that are expected. Then they have the B tier, the B-level answers, and then the A tier, which is usually reserved for returning decathletes. Because they've done this before, so they're more trained. So, I was a 9th grader, and that year, the super quiz was the United Nations. This is why when it comes to World War I, World War II, the League of Nations and the United Nations, I can't forget that shit even if I wanted to, because I had to study that shit literally for a year. Not just in school, after school. And while I did not get a medal in one subject, because I didn't excel at one subject, out of my entire team, I was the only one that got all-around best score, meaning I was not a subject matter expert in any subject, but I was so well-rounded in all subjects that I took the top honor from the team. I was only 14. Do with that what you will. But what this tells me is that if the United States doesn't get its head out of its ass soon, and I'm talking about Congress, listen to who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Congress. I'm not talking about the administration. We already know that they're all corrupted, it's all convoluted, and they're all involved. No. I'm talking about Congress. I'm talking about the governors of the states that have certain powers. Okay? Because this is a union of states, and there's states' rights, and it goes back and forth. The federal government is not omnipotent. Not in the very least. Down to jurisdiction. They can sit here and claim we don't need warrants. The Kavanaugh said no. work that way. So I keep telling you, these uninformed, uneducated ICE agents that go and say, we don't need a warrant. Justice Kavanaugh, the moment they say that, you said that's a state, not a decision, you're wrong, and the Constitution has not been amended. The Fourth Amendment still stands. Because in order to get an amendment, you need any amendments to the Constitution to be passed by Congress and ratified by 38 out of the 50 states. That means 38 states have to agree to make that change, and the numbers are not there. And every day the time goes by, there's less and less probability of any of that happening. Not saying the Constitution is perfect or infallible. I'm just saying it's still stopping a full-on authoritarian regime, and we're pretty much at, I know, 90% of it, but it could truly be far worse. Ask Palestine. Ask the Congo. Ask El Salvador. Ask Guatemala. Every time they had a civil war and the United States went down there. Could be far worse. Okay? So this is why that's important, because now you're going to have almost 200 nations go on and say, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, fuck you. That's why he was trying to do the League of Peace shit. Because he's trying to say, well, if I'm in the League of Peace, how are we being held accountable for crimes to humanity? We're in the League of Peace, right? But if you notice, when they offered Mexico the chance to be part of the League of Peace, Sheinbaum was very clear in saying, no, if it doesn't include Palestine, we don't want it. And it's those tiny acts of courage from worldwide leaders, no matter how big or small their country is, that show this regime that they don't have enough bombs or manpower to get the world to bend the knee. And you have had China make certain comments that if they keep messing with Cuba, whatever, if they keep pushing, they haven't called out the United States directly, but they don't need to. They have us by our balls. Israel does not. Israel has the government by their balls. But the rest of the population of this country, yeah, no, we're beholden to China. They own our debt. They supply us every numbing comfort. Soma, for those of you that have read Aldous Huxley, they supply us every comfort. We are the babies at China's teat. It's the truth. And our corporate overlords didn't think that through. Back in 1990, when Ross Perot was telling everybody, this is a bad idea, don't do it. Only independent running for president, by the way. Was he infallible? No. Was he a rich Texan? Yeah, but the one thing that man was for was American enterprise and American manufacturing sovereignty, because he was even against NAFTA, saying all you're going to do is destabilize Mexico and the Mexican border, which it did. That man saw things and told you shit regardless of whether it was going to benefit him or not. And at 10 years old, I was smart enough to know that if I could vote, I should vote for Ross Perot. Unfortunately, the rest of the country got stuck between Clinton versus Dole, and Clinton was, you know, he was handsome, I guess. I don't know. He had an appeal, and everybody went for him. But make no mistake, we were already doing shit in the Middle East we weren't supposed to do, and probably prodded by Israel, like Operation Desert Storm, that, if my memory serves me correct, started in 1989. So you see, this isn't new. We've been at this for at least 30-some years. So I was 9 years old in 1989. I'm 45 now. So for the rest of you young people that may not know some of this aspect or context, I hope that this is helping you understand how we got here. Because it's not just the Epstein files. It has been foreign policy, global economics. All of these things are connected and impacted, not just by the Epstein files. Mainly greed, honestly, if I'm being realistic. Greed and stupid rich old white men. Okay? Primarily. I know there's stupid men and stupid women that come from all backgrounds, but in corporate America, especially back in the 80s, the only ones that got the CEO titles were white men. Look at the percentages and demographics of CEOs now. Okay? So, but bringing it back to the original way that I started with this, the reasoning behind the United Nations finally doing doing this is because they know, the other countries and the other four superpowers know that they're going to have to bomb the United States and Israel if they don't stop. They've already wanted to. This is the final warning before one of us gets boom. And they're trying to stop them from doing to Iran what they're going to do. Now, you're wondering, Griselda, what can we do to stop that? Very simple. If you are a parent of a child or a young person that is in the United States military, or even an older person, somebody that has some sort of leadership role, and you are against what your government is doing, you tell your kid to go to jail. Do what the people in the Air Force did and refuse the order. The new government we're going to form, after all of this is gone, will issue pardons and reinstate everything. I guarantee it. It would be the right thing to do. And we're not going to elect leaders that are not going to do that. Right? That has to be part of, if I am elected, everybody that refuses these illegal orders will get a pardon. So if the military goes, nope, we're not doing that, it's game over, because now they have no muscle. That is the least bloodless way to get this to be done. Now, if you want the other alternative, and I'm not trying to incite violence, I am just giving you a hypothetical situation to analyze for context. What are potential avenues to get out of here? Okay? The safest one is if you've got a child in the armed forces, you tell them to stand down and take the L and go to jail. I'm serious. You tell them, refuse the order, go to jail. Even if they're already over there in the aircraft carriers, tell them to just, refuse the order and say, fuck it, I'm not doing this. They can, and they should. Because if you cannot coerce the military to carry out your illegal orders, who's gonna fly the planes? ICE? No. So yeah, that would mean that the only muscle this idiot has would be ICE. And ICE can do stuff like, I'm telling you, some of the Air Force pilots are already in jail because they said, nope, we're not flying shit over to Israel. Nope. So that's one piece. It's a bloodless piece. You can't force people to do anything, right? What are they going to do? Start shooting? Military officers are going to start shooting each other? If somebody within the military's ranks forces the rest of them by shooting one person, I don't think those people are just going to sit idly by and go, oh yeah, we're going to, no, you'll have a full-on mutiny. Which needs to happen because of bad leadership. All the good leadership quit. Like pussies. Anyway, the other avenue, the more violent avenue, the more swift avenue, is for white men that are against this to attack Israel's embassies nationwide. If you are sick of Israel running our country into the ground, it has to be the peers of the people making the decisions leading the charge. Not brown men, not black men, not Asian men, which is who we've seen out there doing courageous things. It has to be white men. Sorry. It's your mess. It's your people. And it has been your continuing putting your head in the sand that has us where we're at. I'm not saying you're not sensitive to it. I'm not saying you don't feel bad about it. I know you do. A lot of us do. All of us do. But it has to be the former men, the former white men that were part of the military, the former men that were in high command leadership, that need to put everybody who's willing to be a volunteer military and they have to lead the charge. And if some of them don't make it back from that, yes, you will be seen as a hero, but that's the real courage. Because here in Southern California, we already know the police isn't going to help us. They've made it very clear, right? We already know ICE is going to try and do what they're going to do. It's a dry day today. It's supposed to be raining heavy later today and tomorrow, and it's supposed to be dry over the weekend. So on less heavy rain days, expect a lot more stuff. And we already know that this whole ICE stuff is really just being done, A, Project 2025, but B, also to distract from the real crimes. So that's the strategy. Either you get every person in the military that doesn't agree with us to go to jail, and I'm pretty sure that's half of the military. So, you know, if you're a mother of a brown or black child or Asian child in the military, or a native child in the military, your job, mother and father, are to call your kid and tell him, go the fuck to jail. You don't have permission to do this. I am your parent, and you owe me some respect. You owe me some concern, and I forbid you. Please go to jail. The rest of us will have your back when this is all over. Because those kids are isolated. I'm saying kids because most of the young people in the military that they're enlisting or whatever, a lot of them are under 25. The prefrontal cortex isn't done, right? And there's less experience if they've been groomed and they've been conditioned to just blindly follow orders and become cannon fodder. So the only thing that could potentially break through that brainwashing is parental love. I'm telling you, 0 degrees Aries. Right now, the youth, a lot of the youth that are, you know, especially those born in 2002, year of the fire horse. I know my son was born in 2002. Those are young kids that are 24 this year. They're going to be turning 24 or just turned 24. What is the age of probably the median military person? Close to that. You might be able to trigger something inside the prefrontal cortex that snaps them out of the programming, but it is your job as a parent to do so. And the other part is, if we're gonna civil war this, you attack the embassies of the worst fucking country in the world that doesn't even exist. That's not even a real country. And it's going to be the most heavily guarded and the most heavily surveilled embassies in the country. So you guys are going to have to read up on your guerrilla warfare tactics, because they don't really know how to do that. And we're all going to have to become Charlie or Carlos or whatever. But if it's a bunch of white men standing up and leading the charge, I don't think Israel's gonna try and kill all the white men in the United States, because then even the racist white men are gonna go like, bro, what the fuck? That's my opinion. Do with it what you will. This is a long video, but there's a lot of nuance here.